Forget everything you know about recent DC animations. The Batman Knightfall trailer just confirmed that the golden era of brutal adaptations is back, featuring that 90s art style, uncensored violence, and the return of the Robin we all missed.
Today is a historic day for Batman animation fans. The official trailer for Batman Knightfall Part 1 was just exclusively revealed by IGN, and along with it came the first official images, the full voice cast, and the confirmation of something fans have been waiting decades for. The most brutal saga in the character's history is finally getting the animated adaptation it has always deserved. The trailer opens by immersing us in this gorgeous Gotham, with a vintage filter that perfectly sets up the universe and the 90s comic book vibe, which is an excellent sign in my opinion. We don't see it completely, but this Batmobile is one of the coolest ever. It's super fast and highly stylized.
But the biggest highlight of this intro is Tim Drake. Yes, Tim Drake is finally back after years of being forgotten by DC Animations. He is a very important Robin to the Bat family, and the character who, after Dick Grayson, held the Robin mantle the longest in the comics. So guys, it's incredible that Tim Drake is in the animation, and he will have a crucial role. In the comics, his participation is major. When Jean-Paul Valley takes over the mantle, Tim is tasked with preparing him to be a Batman worthy of Bruce Wayne, right up until the moment Azrael locks him out of the Batcave. And speaking of Jean-Paul Valley, who is Azrael and will become Batman, he is also heavily featured in the trailer. Every shot where we can see his suits looks incredible and comic accurate. Flawless, a solid 10 out of 10. Right after, we also see Gotham up in flames. This moment is incredibly intense. I won't give away too many spoilers for those who haven't read the comic, but it involves the villains breaking out of Arkham Asylum because of Bane. It's truly a badass moment from the comics.
Now for the cherry on top. Look at the violence of Batman against this character. This makes me think that this might already be Jean-Paul Valley as Batman, considering he was a much more brutal Batman, and his level of violence in the story only escalates. Other villains appear quickly in trailer scenes, but it's worth highlighting. Joker, Mad Hatter with an insane look, Riddler, Two-Face, and surely many more villains will show up. Another massive highlight is Dick Grayson, our Nightwing, sporting his 90s suit and long hair. Loved that detail. It's obvious that someone taking up the Batman mantle in Bruce's absence, especially someone who isn't one of the Robins, is going to tick Nightwing off. And here, we already see him clashing with Bat Azrael. To understand the weight of this announcement, we need context. DC Studios abruptly ended the so-called Tomorrowverse, that wave of direct-to-home video animated movies by Warner Brothers that dominated the last phase. The end of that era created massive expectations about what would come next. And what arrived is a mature, R-rated animated trilogy with a visual style completely different from anything that previous phase delivered. The production brought together Warner Brothers Animation, DC Studios, and Warner Home Entertainment, and the first movie premiered this week at the Annecy International Animation Film Festival in France, one of the most relevant animation festivals in the world. Premiering in this context is no accident. It signals that this trilogy was built with an artistic ambition that goes way beyond a direct-to-streaming product. The official release of Batman Knightfall Part 1 is scheduled for later this year, and the trilogy was originally announced at New York Comic Con 2025. But now, with the trailer and the first images in hand, what was a distant announcement has become something concrete and urgent. And the reveal images already show why this project is going to be different. In the first official photos, we see Batman confronting a massive Bane in a composition that already conveys the physical scale of the saga's central clash. There's also an excellent image of the new Batsuit during an encounter with Azrael, featuring that fantastic uniform, pointy ears, and those aura-farming shoulder pads. I love that suit. And Mr. Freeze looks appropriately intimidating and faithful to the comics of that era, straying quite a bit from what people who only watch the animated series are used to. The visual style is highly stylized, with an aesthetic very different from the previous era of DC animated films.
Another released image shows the absolute climax of the saga. The moment Bane invades Wayne Manor and catches Bruce completely unprepared and exhausted, kicking off the beatdown. I really want to see how this plays out in the animation, because in the comic issue where Bane breaks the bat, Bruce gets beaten up for the entire issue. Our beloved Dark Knight is going to go through hell with his greatest nemesis. But the people inside these suits are what will make this project explode.
The cast. Anson Mount, known internationally for his work as Captain Pike in Star Trek Strange New Worlds and also Black Bolt in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, voices Batman and Bruce Wayne. It's a choice that makes sense. Mount has a screen presence that mixes authority and vulnerability, exactly what the Bruce of this saga will need, because what happens to him in Knightfall is unlike anything any adaptation has ever shown. And then there's Bane. Michael Mando, who MCU fans will soon see as Scorpion in the new Spider-Man movie, has been cast in the animation as basically Batman's Doomsday. Mando has the vocal weight and dramatic intensity that Knightfall's Bane demands, because this isn't the supporting character Bane who shows up for 5 minutes. This is the Bane who breaks the bat.
In fact, Michael Mando himself posted a photo in the studio while recording his lines for Bane. And right there in the corner, on the TV monitor, we can see the classic scene of Batman getting broken by Bane. And man, that is insane. This looks so good. The hype is absolutely real. Rounding out the main trio, Pablo Schreiber, the Master Chief from the Halo series, voices John Paul Valley, aka Azrael. And if you still don't know who John Paul Valley is, pay attention, because he is the most important character in this trilogy after Bruce, and the reason why Knightfall is still discussed in comic circles decades after it was published. And if you think Bane is just brute strength, wait until you see what he does in the Wayne Manor scene that the trailer only hinted at. Before getting into the story, let's talk about the team behind the camera. Directing duties went to Jeff Wamester, who previously directed Justice League, Crisis on Infinite Earths, which isn't very encouraging news considering what a bomb that was. And the script was written by Jeremy Adams. Although Crisis divided opinions, Knightfall, having a script by Jeremy Adams, who is very beloved by fans, brings an interesting balance to the production. But behind this heavy-hitting cast and direction, there was a plot designed to emotionally destroy Bruce Wayne. To understand why this trailer is so important, we need to look at Bane's Sinister plan.
The adaptation is based on a comic book storyline created by a massive group of authors: Doug Moench, Chuck Dixon, Alan Grant, Dennis O'Neil, Peter David, Joe Duffy, Jim Aparo, Graham Nolan, Norm Brayfogle, and Jim Ballant. Knightfall was a crossover event that spanned multiple Batman titles over roughly 2 years of publication, and gathering this material into an animated trilogy is a highly complex adaptation job.
Now let's talk about the story, and I need you to pay attention to every detail, because Knightfall isn't just one of the best Batman stories. It is the story that redefines what it means to be the Dark Knight. The official synopsis for Part 1 says, when the mysterious behemoth known only as Bane frees the entire rogues gallery from Arkham Asylum, the Dark Knight is pushed to his physical and mental limits. It sounds simple in the synopsis, but what happens in execution is much more calculated. Bane doesn't free the villains by accident or for the sake of chaos. It's a deliberate strategy. He studies Batman, understands that the hero won't ignore a mass breakout from Arkham, and uses that as a weapon. While Batman runs across the city capturing one enemy after another, with no rest, no time to recover, Bane waits. This progressive exhaustion of Bruce is the heart of the first part of the saga.
And here is where the Venom factor comes in. Bane isn't just big and smart. He uses a super steroid called Venom, injected directly into his skull, which elevates his physical strength to an almost absurd level. When Bane finally faces an exhausted Batman, worn down by weeks of non-stop combat, the confrontation isn't a fight. It's an execution. Bane invades Wayne Manor itself, finds Bruce at home, and the result is one of the most iconic scenes in superhero comic book history. Bane breaks Batman's back, literally. Bruce Wayne walks away from this confrontation incapacitated, unable to continue as the Dark Knight. And this is where the story gets even more interesting, because the question Knightfall raises isn't just who will save Gotham while Bruce recovers. The real question is, what happens when someone wears the Batman mantle but doesn't share his values? If you're a fan of the Batman universe and still don't have Knightfall on your shelf, now is the time. The complete saga is available through our Amazon storefront, with a direct link in the description and pinned comment. It's one of DC's essential reads, and with the animated trilogy coming, there's never been a better time to dive into the original comics before seeing the adaptation. Also, check out our YouTube shopping shelf down below, where we've picked out the best Batman collectibles with exclusive prices for the channel.
Jean-Paul Valley, Azrael, takes up the mantle. He is an assassin trained since childhood by a secret religious sect called the Order of St. Dumas, conditioned to kill without hesitation. Bruce passes the Batman symbol to someone who technically has the physical skills for the job, but who carries inside him a programming of violence that Bruce spent his entire life trying to avoid. Jean-Paul's methods as Batman become increasingly unstable, increasingly brutal. This instability begins to tarnish Batman's reputation with the police, the public, and even his fellow superheroes. Gotham begins to fear Batman in a different way, not as a protector operating in the shadows, but as an unpredictable threat. And while this is happening, Bruce is recovering through means that the trilogy will need to show on screen, since in the original comics, this process involves supernatural elements that add another layer to the story. Knightfall's relevance goes way beyond the comics. Christopher Nolan incorporated core elements of this saga into The Dark Knight Rises, with Tom Hardy as Bane breaking Bruce's back and taking over Gotham. Nolan's film arrived in 2012 and brought Knightfall to a global audience that had never read the comics.
Now, over a decade later, the original story is finally getting the faithful animated adaptation that Nolan never made, with all the details that the feature film format couldn't accommodate. Batman Arkham Origins also draws inspiration from this saga, albeit very superficially, but it's worth mentioning here. And the timing of this animation is surgical. We're at a time when filming for Matt Reeves' The Batman Part 2 has just begun, with rumors about Sebastian Stan as Victor Zsasz and Scarlett Johansson linked to the Court of Owls. The Bat universe has never been so active on so many simultaneous fronts. Knightfall arrives as the perfect historical reference point to understand where this character came from and where he can go. The Knightfall saga also left permanent consequences in the comics. Because of Jean-Paul Valley's brutality as Batman, the hero's reputation had to be rebuilt from scratch. And this experience of seeing what happens when the mantle is carried by the wrong person taught Bruce the dangers of operating completely alone, paving the way directly for the construction of the modern Bat family we know today. Knightfall isn't just a story about a fall. It's the story that explains why Batman could never be a lone wolf ever again.
That was the complete breakdown of the trailer and everything surrounding Batman Knightfall Part 1. Now I want your opinion. Do you think Jean-Paul Valley will be the standout of the trilogy, or will the clash between Bruce and Bane steal the show? Comment down below, because this discussion goes deep. If you want to prep for every detail of this trilogy before the release, the video about Bane's complete saga in the comics goes live soon, but you can also check out the full story of Bane's saga in Absolute Batman, which was basically the Knightfall of the new Batman that everyone's been talking about in the comics. And to make sure you don't miss any news about Batman Knightfall, Matt Reeves' The Batman Part 2, and everything in the Bat universe, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. We cover every detail of this new era of Batman every single day. See you next time.